Right, next up and on the list today. People are already asking for my top 5 and my top 10 rankings of roses, which I'm not going to get into just yet. It is far too early on in the season to be even contemplating putting together a top 10 of my favourite David Austin roses. There are dozens ahead of us just yet. And up today, if you wanted a sneaky peek at the top 10, this is Princess Anne from David Austin Roses, bred and released in 2010 and named after Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal. This is a beautiful and very hard working rose, and if you were going to force me into making decisions on a top 10, this plant would particularly make that list quite quickly. Now, she's normally one of the first roses in bloom here in the North Coast Cottage Garden. She was pipped to the post this year by Olivia Rose Austin, but this rose will be one of the first in flower in the garden, normally in early June, flowering continuously and working really hard all the way through to the back end of September. Now, very true to form on the David Austin website, it says it reaches about 4 feet by 4 feet, and that is absolutely spot on the money. It's a very well-natured bush, stays very much in her lane, controls her size well. Now, this bush was pruned to around 3.5 feet over the winter, and obviously this is its first flush of flowers. They started around a week ago, and it has already sent up, you can see the leaders rising above my head just to the left there. Those are about 6 or 7 leaders, absolutely encrusted with blooms. Its first flush is going to be really heavy. It's going to be around 120, 130 blooms at once. Now, the scent is delicate. I'm not saying it's overwhelming, I'm not saying it's particularly powerful, but it is very pleasant. The flower is the most wonderful true pink colour. You can see there it's absolutely packed with petals, really beautiful and really full. The foliage is a really lovely dark glossy green, particularly good on the disease resistance and particularly good on the pest resistance as well. I don't get a great deal of problems with this particular plant. I love this one so much. I have 3 or 4 dotted around the garden. It really is an absolutely cracking plant. You're probably thinking, why on earth did that lazy gardener not deadhead this rose before he made this video? Well, I left this like this particularly because I love the way the flower fades. It goes from this wonderful, true, strong pink to this wonderful magenta colour as it fades. It is so pretty the way it drops its petals, so I tend to leave the heads on this just a little bit longer because they just look so pretty. They fade to this wonderful sort of magenta pink, fading out to white with a very yellow tip right in the centre. It is a really attractive plant. If you wanted to put this into a really big pot or a half barrel, it's a really good rose for that. It is a little bit on the spiky side, but she will reward you time and time again with loads and loads of flowers. So in synopsis, a really good free flowering plant, good disease resistance, bang on the height and size, fragrance is okay, but Princess Anne from David Austin Roses, much like Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal, is a really hard working lady that you should certainly have in your garden if you have the space. So yes, there we go. There's Princess Anne from David Austin, absolutely stunning, and I say top tip is one of my top 10.